Part 1. The stench hits first. Chlorine and old piss. It crawls up your nose the second the steel door slams behind you and you're locked in a transport glass. A coffin-sized cage on wheels. It doesn't air out. It crawls into your clothes, your skin, your thoughts. Gray breathes it in like it's nothing. 10 years riding chains and stage stops taught him this funk is just the air cons breathe. They tossed him in quarantine. Solitary. Concrete shoebox 2x3. A cot bolted to the wall. A bucket in the corner. A sad bowl behind a fat grate. 21 days here. Time for the brass to break you and for the fellas to take your measure. First 3 days, silence. Boots squeak down the hall. Dogs bark on the perimeter. Somewhere deep, the zone hums like a sick engine. Food is slop, muddy broth with a random cabbage leaf doing laps. Gray eats in silence. Complaints here mark you weak. Any word can be flipped on you. He stares at the gray ceiling and rewinds his life. How he landed in Red Ravine, a strict regime pit famous for bent rules and broken men. He remembers the last night outside. Prague, on Arbat. Blue smoke from pricey cigars, crystal clinking with French cognac. He, back then still Sergei Petrov, sat with names whispered across Moscow's underworld. They split the final score. An armored car hit worth near $500,000. Money felt endless. Power felt total. 2 days later, they bagged him quiet in his stairwell. No one slipped the net. Somebody sang all of them clean. Now he's here. 12 years strict. He's already done 10 on other raps bell to bell. This bit is fresh. Day 4, the hatch clanks off schedule, not chow. He steps to the door. In the peephole, a warrant officer's mug. Petrov, out, with your things. Gray throws on prison blues. He owns nothing but a state mattress and a tin cup. Lock snaps. Hands back, face the wall. 2 guards twist his arms like he's about to jump them with a shiv. Pure theater. Power show. They march him down a dim corridor in admin. Half walls painted vomit green, damp bleeding through. Fluorescence buzzing overhead. Every step booms. They stop at a padded door. Plaque. Operations Chief, Major V. P. Fedotov. Knock. Permission, Comrade Major. Inmate Petrov delivered. Bring him. The office smells of smoke and authority. Behind the desk sits a heavy man, about 50 puffy face, small pig eyes that weigh you like meat. The Major. Around here they call him the Handler, the Puppet Master. All threads in his hands. Snitches, schemes, money streams. In the corner, a captain with jittery eyes needs a file. Sit, Petrov. The Handler nods at the chair. Gray sits straight, hands on knees. No fear, no groveling, just waiting. He knows this play. They run it on every drifter with any weight outside. Well, Sergei Andreevich, the Major drawls, flipping pages. Took you a while to reach us. Moscow, Vladimir Central, White Swan, colorful resume. 2 bids, robbery, assault, heavy articles, never cracked, never bent rules, never worked with admin. Live by the code, huh? Gray says nothing. Here, any answer is a trap. Silent, good. Words fly, problems stay. The Handler smirks. Listen up. This is a red zone, not thief-ruled. Anyone trying to plant their laws leaves bad. Either rides out to the TB ward or finds a noose from boredom. You don't want that, do you? Gray's eyes narrow. Nothing else. The chair winds under the Major. You're sharp. On the street you weren't small fry. We know about the Prague sit-down, the armored hit, and we know who sold you out. Your buddy Mishanya the Limp turned the whole crew in, copped 5 suspended, and you as the organizer got 12. Stings, yeah? It hits like a cold spike. He suspected, but hearing it from a cop is filthier. Mishanya was childhood saltbread. Betrayal burns. The Major sees the flinch and grins. So here's the fork. Option 1, General Barracks. The watcher there is Tooth, old-school thief from Soviet days. Hard man. He'll probe you, test you. And our crowd? It's the 90s. Codes are warped, wild cards everywhere. Slip once and you'll scrub buckets till release. No one will stick up for a stranger. Pause. Let it sink. Option 2, Barracks 7, the goats. Our people. Own canteen, TV, library job, parole at half term. We want a simple trade. You listen. You whisper back. what they scheme in the thieves' corner, what Tooth's plotting, who's sending grease to the zone. You'll be our ears, no one will know. We keep secrets, and we can send a message outside to make Mishanya's life very long and very sour. Well, deal? The major slides out a sweaty paw. This is the crest. Say yes, and you're marked forever. Say no, and you sign up for pain, the hole, beatings, pressure. Gray lifts his eyes, ice cold. Chief, he says flat, I'm a small man, an inmate. My job is to do my time, not play games. Send me where you send me. I won't break rules. No challenge, no fear, just a wall. The handler's face purples. Small man, huh? We'll see how small when they cripple you in the barracks. Take him to 16, to the thieves. Let them teach him to love the motherland. Cuffs again. As they drag him out, the major's laugh scratches his back. 16th is the black heart of the zone. Tooth's turf. The road is short, fenced lane. Beyond it, a long single story of gray brick and barred windows. On the steps, a few cons in black coats smoke and stare heavy. Fresh meat, a guard grunts, shoving Gray forward. Inside, long, half-dark room stuffed with double bunks. Air thick, sweat, cheap tobacco, bad food, unwashed bodies. 100 eyes lock on him, voices drop dead. Somewhere a TB cough rattles. Radio plays prison chanson low. Gray stands by the door and lets them look. No fuss. Don't scan for a spot. Don't show weakness. Stand, wait. They'll come. From the far corner, hidden behind sheets, 3 figures step out. The middle one, maybe 40, average height, but posture like a king. Face mapped with fine lines, cold gray eyes that look through you. Rings on fingers, stars on collarbones. The Watcher. Beside him, 2 bulls, shaved heads, broken noses. How's it going, Drifter? The Watcher says soft, but the barracks hears him like a PA. Health to you, Gray answers even. Who are you? From where? For what? Standard, but answers decide fate. Moscow, 145, Part 3, 12 years. Gray, the Watcher squints. Heard of a Gray on that armor job. Loud case, they say all were grabbed. As it is. How'd you land here alone? Where's the rest? Steel edges creep into his tone. First probe. Are you dragging tails? Are you wired? Others went to other camps. Wherever the system threw them. I'm solo. Solo. The Watcher circles him like a horse buyer. And why did the handler want a tea party with you? There it is. Everyone knows ops squeeze newcomers first. Offered sugar, Gray says calm. Goat house, library shift. Wanted me to keep ears warm and tongue loose. And you took it? One bull smirks, a ripple of laughter. If I took it, I'd be in 7 right now, not here, Gray answers, eyes on the bull. The Watcher nods. Right answer. They call me Antique. I run this barracks. This is Boar and Spike. Come talk. Behind the sheets it's cleaner. Jar of black tea, sliced bread, a slab of fat. Luxury here. Gray sits, Antique sits opposite. Boar and Spike stand behind. Who vouches for you? Antique asks. Whose circle you walked with? Straight guys. Crossed paths with the late Yaponchik in Moscow, with Svoska. Sent support to zones. Last year's worked with thief Vasya Korj. Names land heavy, especially Korj, a lawman who held half of Petersburg. Korj! Antique perks up. He's still in power? He was when I got grabbed. Tooth sent him a runner from here, asking to back the local brothers. Dropping Tooth and a runner is a trump. Shows Gray's wired into thief business. Antique Trades looks with his muscle. A runner, huh? Then what was in it? Gray feels the next trap. Repeat a letter's content and you break the code. Runners aren't for gossip. A runner is a runner, he says, eyes steady. Not my place to spread its guts. Those who should know, know. Silence tightens. Boar tenses. Antique drills Gray for any flicker. Then a faint smile. Right, not your business. The sheet lifts. Another man steps in. Older than Antique, skinny, face like parchment stretched over bone. But the eyes, dark, almost black, carry all the pain and math of decades behind bars. Church dome ink shows under his collar, crowned ring on finger, Tooth, the legend. He says nothing at first, sits on a bunk, packs a Bellamore. Antique lights him, smoke rolls. Here we got a guest, Tooth rasps. Says Korj this, runner that. Gray's spine chills. This is the real exam. I'm not spinning tales, Father, Gray says with respect, but no bowing. I'm saying what I know. You know? Tooth locks eyes. You know that every word costs here? Your tongue can charge you your life? I know. Mishanya the limp. You know him? Tooth fires suddenly. Gray stiffens. How does he know? Knew. They say he sold you to the cops. True? Trap. Charging a man with rat work without proof is a sin in the code, even if it's true. The handler said that to me today. Gray answers careful. Taking a cop's word is not respecting yourself. Needs checking. Tooth studies the coal. The barracks is dead quiet. Right, he finally says. We check. Till then he's a man. Maybe they framed him. He stubs the butt, stands. Give him a place, let him live. 3 words, sentence and pardon at once. Let him live. He's passed. Not family yet, but he's got breathing rights. Antique's face softens a shade. Good. 2nd tier by the window. Not bad. Bore. Show him. Noise returns. Gray throws his mattress up top. Accepted, which here only means a delayed verdict. He looks through the bars at the gray yard, the towers, the rows of wire. Nearly 12 years ahead. And that talk of Mishanya, the handler's jab, Tooth's test, hangs like an axe, ready to drop and split not just his life, but this fragile blood and fear order. The barracks reeks of sour sweat, cheap smoke, and hopelessness. It seeps into your skin, your hair, your soul. For 2 weeks he floats in limbo. Not a man who works to the bone and stares at the floor. Not a flunky. Not elite. He's Cozier, the lucky card. Nickname stuck like gum, hinting he always slips the trap. But here in the White Swan, old merits cost less than a pack of cigarettes. Everything must be proved again. Days smear into one long grind. Wake at 6 to metal clank and guard curses. Morning slop. Then the shop. A drafty hanger that chews steel and men. Grinder screams, welders hiss, burnt iron stings the air. They put Cozier on welding. Easier than felling trees, but one slip and you lose your eyes. He works in silence, focused, feeling eyes on his back. Workers watch wary. Flunkies watch fawning. Thieves watch cold. Especially Crust, the string puller who met him at the gate. Short, wiry, face carved from rock, bead eyes. Crust doesn't step close, but Cozier feels him like a cold draft. He's being studied. Every move, even how he holds a spoon or taps ash. Day 15, the hit lands. In the smoking room after shift, a soot-black closet where the air is knife-thick with smoke, maybe 20 cons crammed in, some squat, some lean on peeling walls, talks and chopped whispers. Cozier stands in a corner, dragging a harsh roll-up. No buddies. Distance is safety here. Friendship is a luxury. Trust is a death wish. The door squeals. Crust walks in with 2 bulls. Silence slams down. Heads drop. Tension goes solid. Crust scans the room and parks his eyes on Cozier. Corners of his thin lips twitch. He strolls over, stops close. Too close. Cheap cologne mixed with sweat stings. Miss me, Cozier? He purrs. Working, Cozier says short, eyes steady. Staring down a man like Crust is already a move. Drop your eyes and you place yourself lower. Work is for men, Crust drawls, pulling out a pack of Marlboro, real foreign flex. He toys with a cigarette. And drifters handle people business, right? Cozier nods once. Not a question, a rule. Good. We got a runner, Crust says, flicking a match and blowing fragrant smoke into Cozier's face. Pure provocation. Cozier doesn't blink. From Antique himself, a hush ripples. Antique's name is heavy. Lawman, watcher of the Swan, and more. A myth. His word outweighs court paper, seen decades, crowned back in Brezhnev days. He rarely shows. Stays apart with his tight circle. Big questions pass through lieutenants like Crust. Crust pulls a tiny tight roll of cigarette paper from his shirt. He dangles it. See this? Sacred. Thief stuff. Then he, accidentally, lets it drop. The runner hits the filthy spit-stained concrete at Cozier's feet. The room freezes. Someone gulps. Classic setup. If Cozier bends and picks it up, he obeys. He's bendable. becomes a flunky. His nickname turns to a joke. If he refuses, he challenges Crust and refuses to help thief business. That can cost blood. Crust grins down. "What's wrong, homie? Help out. Can't see I'm busy? It's urgent. For the thieves." His bulls tense. Cozier feels their breath. He's in the vice. Dozens of eyes judge him. Trial right here in the stink. An old lesson flashes up. "Never rush," old Fitch told him on his first bunk. "Rushing marks a sucker. Think. There's always a counter. Don't be scared. Know the code." Cozier slowly looks from Crust's face to the roll, then back. No fear, no anger, just ice. "I don't deal with the floor," he says, clear and loud enough for all. "Floors are for dirt. Thief business sits above that." Crust squints, smile dies. "What are you hinting at, wise guy?" "That it ain't by code to throw a thief runner on the ground." Cozier rides the volume up. Now he's talking to the room, not just Crust. Turn defense into prosecution. How did it happen that a message from Antique himself is lying in the muck? Hands slipped? Or not that important if it rolls with trash? Shock hangs. Wild move. He didn't just refuse, he flipped it. He accuses Crust, Antique's right hand, of disrespecting the code and the Watcher. Crust's face goes red. Step forward. Fists ball. "Watch your mouth. You talking to who?" "I'm talking fair." Cozier doesn't move an inch. "And I'm asking you not as Crust, but as a drifter trusted with people's business. How did that trust end up on the floor? Who takes the heat if some guard scumbag picks it up? You do." Knife to the ribs of his pride. Mentioning cops here is poison. The bulls lunge, but Crust chops the air to stop them. He gets it. Cozier is playing high. He's waving the higher code. If Crust swings now, it looks like he's gagging a man for telling the truth. He loses face. "Thief stuff doesn't get picked up off the floor," Cozier repeats, eyes locked. "It's a sin. Whoever dropped it can sort it, or ask his flunky to bend if he's too proud. I'm no flunky. I won't join that sin." He turns to the wall and drags on his roll-up, ending the convo on his terms. Silence. Time holds. Everyone waits. Crust breathes heavy, nostrils flare. He's furious, but beaten. Beaten clean in front of witnesses, by his own rules. Cozier didn't just stand. He used the law like a blade. 10 slow seconds. Crust spits next to the runner, snaps down, snatches it up, pockets it. "We'll talk later, Cozier," he hisses at the door. "We'll talk." They leave. The door bangs. Plaster dust falls. Stillness cracks. A toothless old con coughs. Someone exhales hard. Tension leaks out. Cozier smokes to the nub, burning fingers. Inside, his heart hammers battery acid. Outside, he's calm. He flicks the butt into a tin ashtray and heads out. Men part for him. Their eyes aren't curious anymore. They show respect. And fear. He passed. Not just survived. Announced himself. That night, flat on his bunk, he stares at the ceiling. A runner slides up. The barracks quarterman. A quick guy called Owl. He drops a pack of Java and a sugar cube on Cozier's shelf. "From the people," he says, and ghosts away. That's a sign. Not flunkies, not workers. The Corps saw him. Sugar and smokes from the common fund, equal recognition. He's no longer just Cozier, some random with foggy past. He's a drifter with backbone who knows the code. He doesn't feel joy. He pulls the thin blanket tighter. This is only the start. Crust won't forget. Next test will bite harder and maybe draw blood. He won this round. The war is long. Here the price of a mistake isn't rank. It's life. He closes his eyes, sees that tiny paper roll on filthy concrete. Power, trap, verdict, all in one. In this world, even a scrap of paper can kill. You live only if you learn to turn their weapon back on them. That thought isn't comforting. It's ice in veins, prepping him for the next rounds. 8 years left. Long ones. The shop air is a wet coat you can't take off. Metal dust, overheated oil, and the thick drone of machines. The hum never stops. It gets into bone, makes your chest buzz. It's the soundtrack here, monotone, endless. Gray runs a lathe. A month ago, his hands knew a bend steering wheel and cold gun steel. Now they're black and nicked. Hot, razor-sharp chips bite skin and leave tiny burns. 12 hours a day, he carves nameless parts for some big state thing he'll never see. Meaningless work for a life that's been stripped of meaning. Spider shows up rarely. As the Watcher's top hand, he's free from mandatory labor, but sometimes he glides through to check common fun jobs, or just remind everyone he exists. He moves between machines smooth and silent, like he floats over the greasy floor. The air shifts when he's near. Workers shrink, thieves straighten. Today he stops by Gray, says nothing, crosses tattoo-webbed arms. His gaze scans Gray's hands, his face, the spinning billet in the chuck. The drone wraps the silence tighter. Gray keeps working, cold sweat tracking his spine. Different kind of test. Endurance. Not welded for this, Spider finally says, voice cutting through the metal roar. Brittle fingers. What were you, a pianist, or just used to counting cash? Gray kills the lathe. The sudden quiet rings. Only a faint rumble from the next hall. He wipes his hands on diesel-soaked rag. Had to count, he says even, looking not at Spider, but at his palms. And not only cash, Spider grunts. Could mean anything. Approval, mockery, doubt. Counted, huh? So, how'd you miscount your way in here? Your article's heavy. Not for a sack of potatoes. For that you end up in dirt outside, or rootin' here for a long time. A straight question. In a camp, you don't ask that for fun. It's how you probe a man, read his core, his past, which here weighs more than the present. Your story is either capital or a sentence. Long road, Gray dodged. Everyone's road is long, Spider cut him off. Short ones end under the red line. You don't look like one of them, so talk. Not an interrogation. For understanding. Who are you? They moved to a corner of the shop, the smoke break spot on bolt crates. Nearby, a limper was squatting, fixing his only decent boot with a wire. He looked up. Faded eyes pinned Gray, one of Spider's quiet, loyal hands. The limp was a scar from some old bloody chapter. Gray sat. He didn't want to talk. Every word about the free world was salt in an open cut. But refusing wasn't an option. Refuse and you doubt the man's authority. That's a challenge. It started like it did for many our age, he began, eyes on the concrete. The union cracked. Everything locked up spilled into the street. Cash, power, guns. I was 22 when I crippled my first man. Didn't kill him, broke his life. Early co-op guy. Thought he was the smartest in the room. We came in 91, offered a roof. He laughed, said his roof was the Komsomol district office. Gray's smile was bitter. We explained the Komsomol was over. We were just getting started. Broke his legs with rebar, not for the cash, for the lesson, so others wouldn't laugh. After that, things took off. Shops, markets, the first private banks. We weren't wild dogs, Gray said. Tried to live by the code, as much as you can outside. Old heads guided us. Who watched your district? Spider slipped in. Knew many back then. Vaka Sukumi, Gray answered. Spider nodded, a flicker of respect. Solid thief. May the earth rest light. They dropped him in 96 in Moscow. Sniper. By then, I had my own crew, Gray went on. 20 hitters, all with Afghan or Chechnya in their past. We didn't nickel and dime. We wanted plants. Privatization in full swing. Yesterday's party bosses sliced the country like a holiday cake. We showed up and said, share. Some shared, some disappeared. That's how it was. You or you're done. No romance, dirt, blood, big money, very big. $500,000 on a single move wasn't rare. He paused. Machine oil in his nose blended with cigar smoke, perfume, and gunpowder from memory. How'd you get burned? The lame asked, voice rusty. What nailed you? Trust, Gray said, sour. Like always, I had a right-hand man, Vitka Shevtsov, sandbox buddy. He ran the money, wash, shells, banker ties. I trusted him more than myself. We were about to grab a steel mill in the Urals. Done deal. Director removed. Shares bought through fronts. One step left. A forceful shareholders meeting. Day before it, they take me. In my office. Masks, faces down. Like the movies. They stitch everything on me. 2 murders, extortion on a grand scale, running an organized outfit. Evidence iron. All the schemes, calls, accounts, things only me and Vitka knew. They didn't even touch him. Witness. He gave everyone up. Word is he got a chunk of our business and witness protection. 10 years building a crew flushed in one night, one snitch. The shop fell heavy, banality for these walls. Betrayal's the main currency here. Spider stared at his nails, then passed sentence. Your Vitka's a rat, and you're not clean either. A thief doesn't keep friends. He keeps brothers in spirit. Commerce and friendship are whorish, always lead to betrayal. You played businessman, Gray. Forgot you live on the street, not in an office. Money fogs the brain. Vaca didn't teach you that? Vaca said times change, Gray pushed back. You gotta run with a gun and handle papers. Times change, people don't, Spider cut him. A rat stays a rat, in 37 or 97. Remember? Your mistake wasn't that they sold you out. It's that you gave a reason. You let a rat sleep next to your heart. He stood. Work. Here your business is won. Pull your time, and make sure no rats end up near you now. Spider left him with his thoughts. The lame, quiet till then, spoke. He's right about rats, kid. My friend sold me too. My story's simpler. No plants, no millions. Gray looked. The lame hunched over the boot, face usually unreadable, now full of old pain. Me and Leoka the Cross-Eye hit the mail van, he whispered, like afraid the machines might hear. 93, no money, hungry, scared. Tip said pensions for half the district were moving, cosmic sum back then. We had one sawed off and a lot of anger. Plan was simple, scare, grab sacks, bounce, no blood. But the guard, an old man, had a Makarov, saw our masks and started blasting. He panicked. Leoka, hothead, answered with the sawed-off. Center mass, Grandpa dropped, driver ran. I grabbed the sacks. Leoka chased. Another shot. Silence. He comes back with wild eyes. We gotta run. Put the second one down too. We left, split the cash. No joy. It stank of blood. A week later, they bagged me at home. Guess who bought his vodka? Leoka. They picked him 3 days after. He blabbed drunk, and to shave his time, he sold me as the organizer. Wrote it up like I forced him. Said I pulled the trigger twice, and he was just, look out. He got 10, I got 25, and this leg. He tapped his bad knee. They broke it in pre-trial to help me remember how I shot the old man. I didn't sign, but his testimony was enough. 6 years I've steamed here. Leoka, I hear, walks on parole next year for good behavior. A crooked smile. That's friendship. That's together. In camp, it's simpler. Man or maggot. No third path. You told your story. We heard it. Now live so they don't write a new one about you. A bad one. The machines roared back into his skull. Gray stared at his oil-black cut-up hands and knew his old life. Millions, cars, restaurants. Didn't end at the arrest. It ended right now, in this stinking shop, after those 2 stories. He'd dropped into a world where the past never lets go, and the future is counted not in deals, but in served years. And the prime law here was distrust, a slow grind test that never stops, a lice check for the soul. That night, after lights out, the barracks drifted in a half-sleep of snoring and coughing. Whispered talks went on, low, away from guards' ears and the activist goats. Men lay on bunks, smoking harsh roll-ups, words weaving like gray smoke into fate patterns. Next to Gray lay an old-timer, everyone called Mikalish. Quiet, invisible, 60-ish, face like a baked apple. Rarely spoke, but Gray's story opened him up. You talked plants and big money, he whispered, not turning his head. I'm doing 12 for 3 sacks of feed. Gray kept silent, let him spill. All my life in the coal cause, tractor driver. He slid huge knotty hands from under the blanket. They knew only the wheel and levers, lived modest with my old woman. Then the 90s, the farm collapsed. Everyone looted. Smart ones took the machines, the land. I was a fool, honest. Thought, how can this be? It's the people's. Then there was nothing to eat. Pigs screaming from hunger, house bare. And our ex-chairman, a thief's mug, turned farmer. Took all the cattle, all the feed, living fat. He coughed dry into his fist. I snapped. Came at night to his warehouse. Not to steal, to take what's mine. 40 years I broke my back on those fields. Took 3 sacks for the pigs. He had put guards. They caught me. He filed it himself, to scare others. In court he screamed, I stole half his farm, that I'm an enemy of the new order, don't respect private property. Judge was a young angry woman, looked at me like filth. Major theft with breaking and entering? 12 years. My old woman died a year later. Couldn't take it, and here I sit. For 3 sacks. He turned to the wall, shoulders shaking in silent sobs. Gray curled in the draft and watched a knot in the ceiling board. His own tale of millions and a partner's betrayal felt cheap next to the old man's tragedy. On the outside, they lived on different planets. In here, they were equal, 2 convicts, 2 victims of the same cold, indifferent time. And Gray finally caught the ugliest truth about this place. The camp didn't just take freedom. It flattened everyone, mixing a seasoned bandit, a failed thief, and a simple man crushed by life into one gray paste. Different paths, one endpoint. The cold, stinking underworld, where the only real currency wasn't life or money, but the ability to stay human, or at least not turn into complete scum. That night, he dreamed of Vitka Shevtsov. Vitka stood in their old office, flashing that disarming grin, hand out. "No hard feelings, brother," he said. "It's just business, nothing personal." Then his face morphed, skin blotched, eyes sank, and it wasn't Vitka anymore, but Lyoka Crosseye, then the ex-chairman from Mikalich's tail. All their faces melded into one sneering mask of betrayal. Gray woke in cold sweat to, "Up!" Outside, a joyless gray camp dawn bled in. Another day at the lathe, another turn in the spiral. For the first time he felt not anger or revenge, but a hard, empty cold. Stories told, masks off. Paths into this hell are many. The way out is one, and it leads nowhere. Air in the barracks hung like wet cloth. Cheap roll-up smoke, unwashed bodies, chlorine from the weekly floor wash, and the thin, omnipresent smell of despair. Gray lay on the top bunk, eyes on ceiling boards blackened with years. He didn't sleep. No one truly sleeps here. You doze like a predator, half ear cocked, ready to pounce or slip a hit. Down below, a game clapped on a rough table. Cards cobbled from glued paper, rubbed to rags, slapped with a dull, sticky sound. They played Bura. Stakes were more than smokes or sugar. It was about face, 4 at the table. On one side, Pete and Phil from the Slavic Corps, walking under crutch, who in turn was Yakut's right hand, the local lawman. Pete, mid-40s, face like a baked apple, soft talker, a seasoned player. Opposite, Zub and Maga, Chechens from Vaka's crew. Vaka wasn't a lawman, but he ruled his countrymen, and his word weighed as much as any authorities. Zub, young, cocky, with 2 gold fangs always flashing, played aggressive, needling non-stop. Gray listened, invisible. 2 months he'd trained that skill. Vanish when needed, appear at the right second. He learned shades of silence. The hush before a shakedown. The hush before a brawl. The hush after someone got put down. Right now the air hummed with a storm-loaded silence. Cards were an excuse. Tension between Yakut's crowd and Vaka's had been building for weeks. Splitting influence over workers, controlling parcels, skimming first from care packages. A cold war ready to go hot. "Stop the game," Zub snapped, slapping his palm over the deck. The grin slid off, replaced by a predator's snarl. "Hey, Pate, you got some nerve, huh?" Pate lifted his eyes, tired but solid. "Say what you mean, Zub. Stand on it." "I will. What's not clear?" Zub jabbed at the cards. "You're cheating. Little rat tricks. Think we're wide-eared suckers who don't see." Air thickened. Rat wasn't just an insult. It was a death stamp. Steal in general, one thing. Steal at the common table, that's rat work. That means you're not a man. Pete didn't twitch, stared straight into Zub's loud eyes. "You ready to answer that?" he said, calm. "You just called me a rat in front of the room. That's heavy." "I'll answer," Zub barked, jumping up. The table shuddered. "You've been marking cards all game. Thought your watchers would cover you. Times change, scum." Phil sprang up too, younger, hotter. "Watch your broom, hotshot. Who you mouthing off to?" From his corner, Crutch stood. He moved slow, favoring the left leg. Old wound that named him, but the slow-held, coiled threat. He reached the table, his steel eyes bored through Zub. "Cool it, warrior," Crutch said level. "If there's grounds, do it by the code. We gather men. We sort it. Yelling and waving hands isn't man's work. That's rooster stuff." Rooster was the last straw. For a Caucasian, that word is worse than a knife. Zub's face twisted. "What did you say, friend?" He squealed and whipped a heavy metal mug from the table at Crutch. Crutch jerked his head. The mug clanged into the wall. The room exploded. This wasn't a drunk brawl. This was work. Fast, brutal, efficient. Crutch, ignoring his limp, sprang to Zub. His right fist flashed twice with something metal palmed. First hit cracked a jaw so hard Gray felt ice in his gut. Second folded him. Maga was already there. A shank slid from his sleeve, filed steel with a ragged handle. No yelling, no threats. He just stepped, aiming for Crutch's gut. Time syruped. Phil lunged to intercept, caught a knee to his joint, crashed. Pate, older and slower, grabbed from behind. Steel flashed toward Crutch's back while he was finishing Zub with short surgical shots. Something clicked inside Gray. Not a choice. Pack instinct. 2 months he'd breathed this air, eaten this slop, heard these voices. He'd chosen his side back when he refused the handler. Now he had to prove it. He yanked his thin, lumpy mattress and dumped it off the top bunk right onto Maga. The heavy, clotted pad smothered the Chechen exactly as he swung. The shank skittered off to the side, just nicking Crutch's coat. Then chaos. 2 more Chechens from the back corner charged. Slabs dropped from bunks. The barracks turned into a snarling pile of bodies. No duels. They stomped the downed, smashed with stools, kicked. Someone screamed high, not in pain, but rage. Gray jumped down into the mess. A fist cracked his ear, world tilted, ringing. He swung blind and felt knuckles sink into something soft. Blood, sweat, adrenaline flooded his nose. Crutch was in the center, moving like a kill machine. He didn't throw flurries. 1 shot. Man dropped. Step over. Next shot. Face blank, focused, a surgeon at the table. Pate was already curled in a corner, boots drumming him. Phil fought 2 on the wall, face a red mask. Zub lay out cold. Someone was booting his head, steady. It wasn't a sorting. It was slaughter, pure lawless. Gray knew this won't end clean. In a minute, the guards will flood in with batons and dogs. Shakedown. Everyone thrown into the frost. Hours in ops, the hole, and blood, real blood. Someone will stick steel, and this time won't miss. This will break the zone's fragile balance and kick off a purge that drowns everyone, thieves and workers alike. Then the noise began to die. Not at once. In waves rolling back from the door, like water receding after a dam bursts. Men froze, hands fell. Aisle opened. Yakut stood in the doorway. Short, wiry, plain black tracksuit. No chains, no props. But the power off him was arctic. Even the hardest crooks shrank. He didn't shout. He stood and looked. Dark eyes swept the barracks, landing a second on each point. Crutch, Phil's smashed face, Zub's body, Gray, the blood on the floor. 2 of his people behind him, not needed. All the power sat in that small frame. He stepped in. The doors he left open boomed in the dead quiet. "You've lost your minds," he whispered, but everyone heard. No anger, just ice contempt. "Turn the house into a pigsty. Over what? Cards." He reached the table and brushed the ragged deck to the floor. "Crutch," he called without turning. Crutch stepped up, face unmarked but knuckles scraped raw. "I'm here, Palich." "What happened?" Yakut asked, still calm. "A claim for rat work," Crutch said flat. Zub threw it, word for word. "He insulted me." "Insulted?" Yakut turned his head. "So you got offended and decided to fix justice with fists? Are you the watcher of this barracks or a slaughterhouse bull? You allowed lawless." Crutch dropped his eyes. Yakut's words cut deeper than any punch. Public humiliation. Yakut looked to the Chechens huddled in a corner. "Take yours," he tossed. "I don't want to see them here till we sort this. Tell Vaca there's a council tomorrow. Boiler room after lights out. He doesn't come alone. He brings answers. For the baseless claim and for this circus." He swept the room again. "The rest of you clean this to pharmacy shine in an hour. Not a drop, not a booger. If even one guard gets a whisper of this, I skin him myself. Understood?" A ragged understood rolled through. Yakut turned to leave, then his eyes snagged on Gray, still breathing hard, ear burning, knuckles crusted with someone's blood. The mattress lay nearby. Yakut looked at it, then at Gray. No approval, no blame, just cold attention. He nodded at Crutch, chin pointing at Gray, and walked out. Crutch came over, looked at the split knuckle, the mattress, then at Gray's eyes. "Good," he said short. "Didn't chicken out. But remember, kid, today you stepped in right. Tomorrow, the same move might cost your life. Here, you don't get a single mistake." Heavy palm on Gray's shoulder. "Help clean. Tomorrow's rough." Gray nodded. He grabbed a rag, dropped to his knees, and started wiping the sticky, darkening blood. Zubs, fills, maybe others. He scrubbed boards while one thought pounded. This is the end of the fragile peace. Tomorrow at the sit-down, Yakut and Vaca will decide who owns the zone. That verdict will be written in blood. And he, Gray, isn't a spectator anymore. He made his move. There's no way back. His hands were in other people's blood. For the first time in the camp, he didn't feel fear, only a cold, terrible calm. Another line crossed, many more ahead. A whole life grid-lined like a prison yard. The boiler room in Red Ravine's shop was hell in miniature, not the fairy tale kind with pitchforks, the real handmade kind, air thick and oily. Coal dust and sweat biting lungs each breath. 3 giant boilers, like rusted iron idols, hummed low, filling the space with a vibrating heat. A bare bulb hung from a twisted wire, throwing sick, shaky shadows on soot-caked walls. In that roar and half-dark, the zone's thief elite gathered. Today, judgment. Gray stood off to the side, arms crossed. His place was here, eyes and ears for Yakut, but not up front. Sweat crawled down his spine in sticky tracks. Heat came not just from the boilers, but from the people, from tension you could cut with a knife. 15 heavy hitters in the circle, watchers for barracks, for the shop, for the kitchen, all silent, all smoking, sour mahorka fogging the air. Their stares hung like lead weights. At center, on flipped crates, sat 2 poles, 2 worlds crashing in this suffocation. On the left, Yakut, gray, lean, face tanned to leather by camp winds. He sat still, big knotty hands on his knees, stare somewhere into the middle distance. His calm was scarier than any threat. Next to him, sprawled on an equal crate, Knyaz. 20 years younger than Yakut, thick-necked bull. Movements reeked of arrogant power. New school, the 90s breed. Not purity of the code, but real control and money. He kept rubbing his short-cropped nape, pale, almost colorless eyes flicking over faces, restless. Between them, on his knees on dirty concrete, Skull. A week ago, he watched over barracks too, a respected name, zones behind him. Now, he's nobody. Just a defendant at a thieves' council, worse than any cop's tribunal. His usually hard, sure face had melted into a gray mask of fear. Lips trembled. Eyes jumped from Yakut to Knyaz, searching for a drop of mercy. Scar holds the floor, Knyaz says, breaking the silence. A man with a ruined face steps up. A deep old knife scar slashes his right cheek. This is Scar, Knyaz's right hand. He stops over Skull, looking down with cold disgust. "Brothers," he starts, flat and calm. In the boiler roar, his voice sounds darker. "You all know Skull? Big name, which makes this uglier. A letter came from outside. Serious people. Says Skull's been talking to the handler. Not small talk. Business." He lets it hang. The room goes so quiet the boilers feel deafening. Letter says 3 weeks ago, Skull sat in the handler's office over an hour. After that, they searched his barracks for show. Touched no one, though they knew about shanks and cards. 2 days later, Skull gets a care package from the street. No gutting like usual. Handed over intact. Tea, smokes, sugar, smooth as butter. Any of you ever had that kind of candy from guards? Eyes drop. Everyone knows the answer. Every package gets flayed. Every smoke cracked. Every sugar cube stabbed. And last, Scar's voice hardens. The letter names the man Skull gave up. Mika from Ryazan, shipped to White Swan last week for a stashed pistol. The pistol we all hid together. How'd the handler know where to dig? Who whispered? Scar finishes and flips the letter onto the floor in front of Skull. It lies there, like a death slip. "Lies!" Skull blurts, voice breaking. He tries to rise. Scar boots his shoulder and pins him back to his knees. Dog crap. A setup. I've known Mika since juvie. I'd bite my tongue off before saying his name. Then explain, Knyaz drawls without moving. Explain the fake search, the smooth package, the hour in the handler's office. We're all dying to hear. He called me about the kitchen riot, Skull rattles off, desperate. Last month. Wanted ringleaders. I told him the men blew up on their own. Slop was poison. I named no one. And the package? Maybe lazy shift on duty. Happens. You know me, 30 years in and out. When was I ever a rat? He scans faces, but eyes slide away. Doubt is acid. Once poured, it eats everything. Yakut cuts in. He doesn't raise his voice, but each word thuds like a stone. A letter is paper, he says, staring at the sheet on the floor. Paper can say anything. To take a life, you need iron facts. Where are they? Knyaz smirks. You're old school, Yakut. I respect it. But times changed. This is war. In war, you don't wait for a knife in the back. Doubt alone is a sentence for everyone near him. Today he sold Mika. Tomorrow he cracks open the common fund. Day after he sells our whole council. You want that risk? Your iron facts will have us all face down while this creep walks on parole. A thief lives by the code, not suspicions. Yakut snaps back. Cops live by suspicions. We need a clear answer, not rumors from who knows who. Who wrote that? Where'd it come from? Scar clears his throat. Came with a guy fresh in from the street, from people you know and respect, Yakut. I won't name them to keep their heads clean, but I will if needed. Strong move. Appeal to names Yakut can't ignore. The old wolf goes still. Jaw ticks under parchment skin. He's cornered. Clear Skull now, and if Skull is dirty, the stain lands on Yakut. Blind old man who missed a rat and put everyone at risk. Condemn without proof, and you break the prime law. Don't judge on slander. Serb watches Yakut wrestle. This isn't just Skull's trial. It's two eras colliding. Yakut's world where a thief's word and rep reign. Knyaz's world, where results excuse any means and suspicion equals guilt. I have a witness, Scar says, triumph bleeding through. He nods to a dark corner behind the boilers. A small beaten man shuffles out, eyes down, in a washed-out coat. One of those camp pigs. This is Petruha, sweeps floors here. That day, 3 weeks back, he hauled buckets past the handler's office. Door was cracked. Tell it, Petruha, don't be scared. Truth's got your back. The last words land like a threat. Petruha flinches, turtles his neck, mumbles to the floor. I passed by. Heard the handler talking. Said, good job. Skull didn't fail us. About Ryazan. Valuable info. You'll get our thanks. Then a voice like Skull's, real quiet. Just don't forget our deal. That's it. I got scared and left. Silence. Skull surges up, face twisted by rage and helplessness. Liar, he screams. They coached you, sold your soul for a pack of tea. He lunges, but two thieves clamp his arms and wrench them back. Skull wheezes, goes slack. He knows it's over, bought witness or not, this is the last nail. In their eyes, he's no longer an authority. He's done. Knyaz shoots Yakut a winner's look. Well, enough facts for you, or we wait till he brings SWAT to our door. Yakut lifts his gaze. He looks past Knyaz and Skull. He searches the faces in the circle. He sees fear, hate for a traitor, and a silent demand for blood. The crowd has ruled. To stand against it now is to lose everything. He waits. The boilers beat a funeral march. Finally he speaks. Voice winter steel. There's a freak in every family. When rot starts in a body, you cut it out before it spreads, even if it hurts. He looks at Skull. No rage, no hope left there. Only emptiness and the understanding of the inevitable. Skull, Yakut continues. You stained your name not by talking to the handler, but by letting doubt crawl into our ranks. You didn't live so clean that no shadow could land on you. Your carelessness put the Brotherhood's honor at risk. For that, the ask is special, full measure. Who carries it out? Knyaz asks. All business. Yakut turns and locks on Serb. Their eyes meet. No anger, no doubt. Only ice necessity. Duty done, and part of that weight handed to a man he trusts. Serb will, Yakut says. With Polioni, do it clean. Serb feels his gut, not cold. Paulione, a big silent hitter beside him, nods once. This is filth work, but refusal is not a move. Refuse and you stand where Skull kneels. This world demands its due. Two thieves shove Skull forward. He doesn't resist. Legs tangle. He stops by Serb and meets his eyes. A strange pleading lives there. "Serb, brother, he whispers. Serb says nothing. He can't. He takes Skull by the elbow, feels the doomed man shaking. Paulione takes the other arm. They lead him deeper, behind the coal pile, to the darkest corner where the boiler roar drowns any sound. Council's over, verdict's in. Kinyaz grunts, satisfied, stands, nods to his crew, heads out. Yakut sits unmoving, like carved wood. He's staring at the letter on the floor, a scrap of paper that just cost a life. Serb walks Skull, and one thought hammers his skull. What if Skull told the truth? What if the letter and the scared witness were theater staged by Kinyaz to clip Yakut's man and flex? What if that scrap is the first rock in an avalanche, a planted denunciation not to punish guilt, but to seed chaos and doubt, to make brothers eat brothers? They reach the coal shadow. Paulione slides a shank from his boot, a long file ground, razor-thin, wrapped handle. Skull sees it, collapses fully, on his knees. "Don't! I'm begging you like a man," he rasps as tears streak his stubble. Serb looks down at a man he split smokes with yesterday, talked business with. No pity, no anger, just a burned-out void. Camp law, pack law, the weak or the stumbled die. He nods to Paulione. The boilers swallow the short, wet choke. When they return, only Yakut remains. Still on the crate. He doesn't ask if it's done. He knows. He picks up the letter, studies it long, then tears it slow into tiny pieces and feeds them into a boiler's open mouth. Paper flashes and becomes ash. "Go, Serb," Yakut says, voice dull, eyes away. "Remember, doubt is rust. It eats from inside. Today we cut a piece. Make sure the rot stops." Serb turns and leaves, but in his bones he knows the rot already spread. That tiny scrap, now ash, was the start, not the end. The snitch note, real or fake, did its job. It killed more than a man. It killed faith. Without faith, the Brotherhood is just a pack of Petras locked in one cage. It's only time before they start eating each other. Silence in the shop feels like tar. It doesn't soothe, it presses. Every creak is a threat. Guard boots on the tower, distant dogs. A TB cough from the next barracks. Even the air at White Swan smells like incoming trouble. In the watcher's closet, reeking of sweat, Mahorca, and cheap tea, smoke layers hang blue. A stolen bulb stabs a thin cone of light. At the rough table sits the Japanese. He carves a small figure from wood. Wolf or demon, hard to tell yet. Blue-inked hands move with deadly precision. Next to him, Givy sips scalding black tea from an aluminum cup. Usually lively, his face is stone. Artyom, recently allowed into these talks, perches on a bench edge, forcing himself not to show nerves. Third in the room, but he feels like a spectator at a play where mistakes cost lives. "The code," the Japanese says, eyes on the knife-line. The blade flashes. Kids think it's fairy tales for marks. Ink some slang, talk the talk. Boom, you're a thief. It's not rapping, Artyom. It's a spine. Break it and you're a sack of crap any guard can punt under a bunk. His voice is mild, but every word sticks like a tattoo needle. Yesterday at the council, we ruled on Kolya the sailor. He cozy talked with the Reds behind the brother's back. You think it was easy? We grew up with him. But law is one for all. A thief doesn't work. A thief doesn't touch power. None of it. Not cops, not the handler, not presidents. They're the system. We're anti-system. Water and fire. Meet and only one stays. If we soften, we're the ones who vanish. Givy sets the cup down hard. Easy to say. Sailor was feeding a family. Handler promised extra visit, extra package for his kid. Human stuff. Human is for the humans, the Japanese cuts in, finally lifting frost-pale eyes. What are we? We're thieves. We ditched human when we took the crown. Our human lives in fairness, in words harder than steel, in dying for a brother and giving the last to the common pot. A thief owns nothing, not even his life. All is ours, all is code, and the kid wouldn't have starved. That's what the common fund is for. He didn't ask the brothers. He went to the scum, traded honor for a handout. That's betrayal, not of us, of the idea itself. The door screeches. A breathless young runner bursts in, eyes flicking. Mikhail Palich, Japanese. We got trouble. Talk clear, the Japanese says, setting down knife and carving. What trouble? They caught Shustri, Vitka. At Ugel's corner, he swiped a Mahorka pouch from under the pillow. The room dies. Even breathing stops. Artyom's spine chills. He's heard about rat work. Worse sin in prison. Worse than murder. A killer takes a stranger's life. A rat steals from his own. From the man who splits a bunk and a crust. Who watches your back. Givey's face darkens. Knuckles bleach. Bastard, he growls. Quiet. The Japanese's voice snaps like a whip. He stands. The wiry frame hums like a compressed spring. Where? Ugel's corner. Bring both here. And the witnesses. The runner vanishes. That's the code in motion, Artyom, the Japanese says to the wall. Not talk, work. 5 minutes later, they drag in Vitka Shustri, skinny, jittery, 19, eyes always skittering, his smirk washed off, leaving raw animal panic. 2 big men hold his elbows. Behind them comes Sergei Ugel, old gray orca with 100 camps behind him, thin as a plank, quiet as a grave. Respected because he never raises his voice and always speaks square, his word weighs. Health, Ugel, the Japanese nods. Tell it. Ugel sweeps the room with heavy eyes, lands on the shaking kid. I was on my bunk. He hung around, asked for a smoke. I gave him one, went to the sink, came back. Pouch gone. Boys say they saw him slide a hand under my pillow and stash something up his sleeve. We shook him. This. One of the men tosses a grimy cloth pouch onto the table, the same one Ugel stitched on the transfer in Tayumen. The Japanese turns it, looks at Vitka. Yours? Not mine, Uncle Misha, I swear, Vitka squeals. Planted, they did it. They hate me. Who's they? The Japanese stays calm. Ugel hates you. Why? You stepped on his foot? You think an old thief with fire and water behind him would lie about a 19-year-old over a Mahorka pouch? You hear yourself? I don't know. I didn't take it. Vitka starts crying. Snot and tears slick his dirty cheeks. I swear on my mom. Leave Mother out of it, Givey snaps. Mother is sacred. Don't drag her in your mud. The Japanese circles the table and stands over Vitka. No threats, just eye contact. Vitka shrinks and tries to look away. Can't. Listen, runner, the Japanese says low, for them and Artyom close enough to hear. In our world, things matter more than life or death. Honor, name. You didn't steal a pouch. You stole trust. You crapped on a man who breathed the same air as you. That's rat work. You know what that buys? Vitka shakes harder. Teeth chatter. I'll pay it back. All of it. Uncle Sergei, forgive me. Devil tempted me. He drops to his knees in front of Ugel. Don't ruin me. Ugel doesn't look down. He looks at the Japanese. No anger, no pity, just tired rightness. Not mine to forgive, he says. Council and law decide. The Japanese steps away and sits. You confessed, he notes. Good. Means you won't die like those who lie to the end. But you won't live as a man either. Artyom, come. Artyom's legs go cotton as he steps forward. Watch and remember, the Japanese says, pointing at the sobbing kid. This is a rat. From today he can't sit at a table with men. He can't eat from common dishes. He cannot touch a decent inmate. His word is nothing. His life is cheaper than dirt under nails. He lives by the toilet, sleeps by the toilet, eats what's thrown. Any worker, any outsider can hit him. Anyone who gives him a hand or talks to him like an equal becomes the same. Got it? Got it, Artyom croaks. Nausea rises from fear, disgust, and the brutal inevitability. This isn't cruelty, the Japanese continues, reading his mind. It's sanitation. Leave one rat, and tomorrow there are 10. They'll eat the common fund. They'll bite throats. They'll sell us for an extra ladle. Our brotherhood and law will rot. We crush jackals. We clean our own filth or drown in it. He turns to the men holding Vitka. Announce it barracks wide. Vitka Shustri is a rat. Drop him. The word drop lands like a death bell. Not death. Worse, a living hell on earth. Vitka howls like a wounded dog. Don't. Uncle Misha, kill me instead. Please. Killing is easy, the Japanese says, lifting his carved figure again. Killing is mercy. You didn't earn mercy. You'll live so every day you remember, so every young punk knows the law and what happens when you break it. They drag the limp, wailing body out. Oogle follows without looking back. The room quiets. Sweat and fear mingle with smoke. Givy pours more tea. His hands tremble. Kid's dumb. 19. Could have been different. Break fingers, bruise kidneys, let him learn. No. The Japanese's voice is granite. The law isn't rubber. It doesn't stretch. Forgive him today for being young. Tomorrow another comes with a sick mom. Day after a third says, the devil made him do it. Where's the line, Givy? There won't be one. Just swamp. They, he nods toward the guard tower, have statutes, terms, parole, loopholes. We have one thing, our code, black and white. Ours or not, man or rat, no third. He looks at Artyom. You think we're beasts? Yeah, Artyom thinks, but says nothing. We're surgeons in a plague ward, the Japanese says. It hurts to cut, but leave a rotting finger, and tomorrow it's the arm, then the whole body. Our code is written in blood, every rule. Behind each is a wrecked life, betrayed, sold, trusted the wrong man. He raises the carving. Now it's clear. A wolf, bared teeth. Why a wolf? He asks. Because a wolf is the forest janitor. He cuts the weak and sick sheep so the herd stays healthy. Lives by the pack's law. If a wolf eats his own, the pack tears him apart. Nature's law. Ours too. Harsh but fair, at least here. The only fairness we get. He draws his finger along the sharp edge of wood. There are pillars. Remember them, Artyom. 1. A thief owns nothing. What you have is the brotherhoods. Today you eat from the pot. Tomorrow you heat that pot. 2. A thief doesn't work. Any work for admin makes you a gear in their machine. That machine is built to crush us. 3. A thief has no family. Your family is the brotherhood. If you lived right, the brothers feed your wife and kids. But you never put them above the code. Sailor did. He's not with us. 4. A thief's word is law. If you promise, die to deliver. Lie once and you're a fraud. Fraudsters get short treatment. 5. The crown jewel, never, under any circumstances, work with power. No statements, no signatures, no witness stand. Let them break bones, pull nails, shut up. One heartfelt chat with the handler, and you're worse than an enemy. You can respect an enemy. A turncoat you only despise and crush. He sets the wolf down. Everything else is derivative. Don't step on workers. Judge fair. No ratting, no lawless. That's our code, our constitution. Each breach gets paid for. Small, slap your ears, medium, break you, big, like Sailor or this runner, and the worst, denunciation. You get erased in silence. Because a snitch isn't a rat. He's plague, infects everyone, destroys all. One denunciation can wipe a family, a whole crew. He looks straight into Artyom. No threat. Just a verdict. Now you've seen, now you know, now you'll be judged as one who understands. Go think. Artyom nods and stumbles out. The yard greets him with the same gray sky, the same pressure. But now he hears something new in the hum. Vitka Shustri's silent howl as a mob of the same kind turns him into a zero. The grind of guards' knives carving up Kolya Sailor's fate. And the Japanese's calm voice laying out survival rules for hell. He walks to his barracks and finally gets it clean. There's no romance here, only blood, filth, and an iron code harsher than any camp rule. Break it and you don't lose freedom. You already don't have that. You lose yourself. The fee for belonging isn't just years, it's your soul. And Artyom has already started paying. The siren rips the stale smoke-thick silence of Barracks 5. Not the usual homie wake-up or lights-out horn. This one is ragged, hysterical. Like a woman's panic scream. It chews your nerves and drops your heart in an ice bucket. Searchlights rake the windows, slicing barbed wire and trampled gray snow. Far off, shepherds go crazy barking. Shake down, someone breathes. One knife-cut word kills sleep. Yakut explodes off his bunk, brain still booting, body already on autopilot. One hand yanks pants, the other checks under the mattress, empty. His tea can and shank, the only treasure, are safe in a wall stash behind a loose brick. He tucked them last night, like he felt it, The door blasts open like with a ram. In the frame, black shapes bloom in clouds of frost. Balaclavas, sphera helmets, body armor, rubber democratizers, and rifles in hands. Not the regular guards, riot squad. As mask show, as they call it behind bars. Harbingers of big blood and bigger problems. Out, face down, move, a megaphoned voice hammers. Half-dressed, half-asleep bodies are yanked to the floor. Batons thud backs, legs, arms, dull, rapid, like a woodpecker. No one resists. Fighting the riot squad in a camp is like trying to stop a train bare-handed. Pointless and suicidal. Yakut gets shoved hard. Knees hit ice-cold concrete. He drops, cheek in dust, hands behind, cuffs bite wrists. He cuts his eyes. Next to him, Gray lies the same, calm face, almost detached. But the eyes hold ancient cold hate. Past him, Zub, the zone's watcher, down like the last nobody. Total submission to force. Part of the game. Pride here equals a toe tag. The code doesn't demand dying under a cop's baton for nothing. It demands you live for the main event. The orgy begins. Riot cops and guards smash everything. Knives rip mattresses. Clotted wads of filthy batting fly. Shelves swept clean. Photos, letters, books hit the floor and turn to trash. A mug shatters. A worker sobs once and catches a boot in the ribs. Shut up, filth! Yakut presses to the floor and listens. It's a pogrom symphony. Boards cracking, glass breaking, heavy blows, curses. The rasping breath of hundreds lying face down. Humiliation. Methodical. Planned. Total. The camp brass just showed who runs this place. The warden and his pet cop ran the show. They reminded everyone that all those thief laws, ranks, and legends turn to dust under their boots whenever they feel like it. Yakut's brain was firing. Why now? Why this hard? Regular shakedowns don't come with masks and riot gear. This wasn't about contraband. It was a scare op. And he was almost sure it tied back to that snitch note that split the crew. The guards smelled blood. They sensed weakness and infighting and hit to make it worse, to push cons into mistakes. One guard stopped by Yakut. He knew the boots, scuffed toes, senior warrant Dyatlov. Real piece of work. So who's this? Yakut? Up-and-coming authority, huh? Dyatlov rasped, towing Yakut's ribs. What now, thief? Face in the dust like the rest. Where's your code? Yakut stayed silent. Answer, and you trigger him. Bark back, and you lose face. Best play was shut up and keep your spine. What, cat got your tongue? The guard squatted, garlic and cheap tobacco breath burning Yakut's cheek. We know your beef's tough, guys. Spiders in a jar. You'll be eating each other soon. We'll watch. He moved on. Ice settled in Yakut's chest. They know. So the letter wasn't just for thieves. Someone's feeding the handler. And this raid is only the opener. Another hour of wreckage and it was done. The barracks looked like a landfill. Up, outside. Cuffs off, men shoved into the cold. Thin prison coats, some barefoot. Lines on the yard under spotlights and razor wind. Dogs frothing at the leash. Front and center stood the warden, Colonel Bagrov. Short, paunchy. Face like an underbaked pancake. Beside him in a slick civvy coat over uniform stood the handler, Captain Soshnikov. Early 30s, bookish features, eyes like a surgeon's, colorless and cold. They feared him more than the boss. Bagrov was blunt force. Soshnikov was the brain. He didn't break you, he disassembled you, found the weakness and pressed till you turned puppet. Well, Eagles, the warden nasaled, think this is a spa? Think you set your thief rules here? Forget where you are? This is a corrective facility. We will correct you until each of you understands what the law is. The law is us. He droned on with training manual cliches. Workers shivered and shifted. The thieves stood still, faces blank. They knew it was theater. The real part comes after. Prisoner Yakubov, step forward, Soshnikov said, crisp. Yakut's heart skipped. Out of hundreds they called him. A black mark. With me, the handler tossed and walked toward admin. Two guards grabbed Yakut and hauled him along. Snow crunched. One thought pounded. The press cell. The basement where rules die, where the toughest get snapped, where you fall downstairs or hang on your belt. They didn't go down. They went up. Second floor, chlorine and state paint, quiet, warm, red carpet. The whiplash from the smashed barracks was dizzying. They stopped at a door. Head of Operations, Captain P.S. Soshnikov. Knock. Enter. Yakut was shoved in. Door shut. One-on-one. Spacious office, big oak desk, leather chair, bookcase, Dzerzhinsky on the wall. Soshnikov wrote, head down, 5 full minutes. Old PSYOP's trick, own the clock. Finally he looked up. Calm, studying eyes, no heat. Sit, Yakubov, he nodded. No need to stand. Yakut perched on the edge. Smoke? He flipped a pack of Marlboros, real ones. Luxury in here. Thanks, boss, I don't, Yakut said, even. Taking a cigarette is a step toward him. Shame? Helps you think? He lit up, blew a rich cloud. So, how's young life? Hard in chains? No sweeter than outside, boss. Cute, the handler smirked. I'm not doing protocol. I'm talking straight. You're not dumb. Got thinking eyes, unlike most of your crowd. Remind me your charge? 105, Part 2. Murder with aggravating factors. Right. That businessman in 93, rough, but fair, they say. He stiffed you hard. And your partners? One's dead, one's at White Swan. See, one's in the dirt, one's rotting alive. You're here, and doing fine. Close to the watcher, prospects even. He paused. But storm clouds, Yakubov. You didn't like today's shakedown? Routine is routine, Yakut dodged. Drop it, he waved. Not a party meeting. You get what that was, a warning. Your family is cracking. You've got a rat, not squeaking, delivering, right onto my desk. He slid open a drawer and tossed a folded gray sheet onto the table. Same kind as Zub read at the council. Familiar? His tone turned to steel. Says Zub slipping, letting chaos slide, skimming the kitty, taking brick tacks off the book. Not addressed to me, is it? It's meant for you thieves, but I've got a copy, and more. I know who, when, where you stash that fund. For example, tonight after the raid, you'll move it. From the dryer stash to a new one under the floor in the kit room by the supply man. That right? Cold sweat hit Yakut. He didn't know those details. Only the tightest circle did. Zub, Gray, maybe 1 or 2 more. If the handler knows, the snitch sits by the throne. I don't follow, boss. Voice steady. Inside, ice. You follow fine. He crushed the smoke. Zub's aging, tries to ride 2 chairs, keep the code and avoid trouble with me. Doesn't work. He's losing his grip. Brick smells it. Young, hungry, Kazan boys at his back. They want war. War in a camp means bodies, incidents, Moscow audits. Do I need that? No, I need order. Iron order, mine. He leaned in. Zub is past. Brick is chaos and blood. I need a controllable leader. A man who can hold this place in a fist with my quiet blessing. A man who knows real power here isn't who shouts loudest at a council. It's who can open any door in this camp. He let it land. You, Yakubov, I like you. Afghan vet. You know discipline and death. You're not a psycho like Brick's calves, and not a sentimental ruin like Zub's turning. You're the future. I'll help you climb, fast. We shelve Zub, quiet. Medical, TB ward. No returns from there. Brick and his oxen we box, solitary. We'll find charges. The zone is yours. You become the watcher. Soul, full. Straight recruit. Become a turncoat. Worst brand in the thief world. And what do I pay? Yakut asked, just to hear the end. Nothing special. Small smile. Share info, not all. Only what breaks my order. Planned riots, escapes, big drug runs. The rest, live your code, run your kitty, judge your own. I don't care. I want stability and loyalty. He sat back. Think it over. This chance comes once. Rot 15 years, or run everything. Yes, under my eye, but run it. Every boss and worker will watch your lips. Your choice. I want an answer by week's end. Pass it through any guard. Say you've got info for me. That'll be the sign. Now go. I can go? Yakut stood. Go think. With your head. Not thief romance. Romance ends with a shank in a dark corner. I'm offering life. Yakut left shaking, not from fear, from rage and disgust. The outside pressure they had guessed about now had a face. Captain Soshnikov's. scarier than any riot squad. The cops weren't just smashing, they were playing chess, moving cons like pawns. They wanted a war so they could crown their king on the ruins. Back in the barracks, the raid was over. Men sifted the wreckage in silence, air heavy as lead. Brick with his boys in a corner, he flicked Yakut a quick weighing look, no pity, only interest. He knew the handler's call was a move in the big game. Yakut walked to Zub and Gray's bunk. They didn't ask, they waited. Well, Zub said low when Yakut sat. Yakut told it all. The letter on the handler's desk. The cops knowing the new stash. The watcher offer. TB Ward for Zub. When he finished, silence. Gray rolled a hand roll between his fingers, unlit. Zub stared at nothing. Face like carved stone. So that's the play, Gray said at last. Handler wants to appoint his king instead of waiting for us to rip each other apart. He knows the stash, Zub said flat. That's the key. Means the rat is breathing down my neck. One of the ones moving it tonight. He paused, counting names. 4 total, including himself. Him, Gray, 2 old trusted men. He's playing ahead, Yakut said. He told me to bring this to you so we start doubting each other more. So you start hunting a traitor among your closest. He pours oil on the fire he lit. The kid's right, Gray nodded. It's a trap. If we start chewing our own now, we drown. That's exactly what he wants. He tossed you bait and waits for us to bite. What's the move? Yakut asked. Zub lifted heavy eyes. No fear. Just terminal fatigue and cold resolve. We do none of what he expects. We don't move the kitty. Let it sit. If they grab it, so be it. We lose money. We keep people. Start shaking our core, and we lose everything. I'm not starting a war with Brick either. Let the warden crown him if he wants. Until he crosses the line, I don't touch him. But the rat, Yakut began. We'll find him, Zub cut in. Voice quiet but metallic. Quiet, no noise, not his way. Ours. He thinks he's a player. He forgot who he sat down with. We've played longer than he's been alive. Our stakes are always higher. He looked over the wrecked barracks, the crushed men. They humiliated us today, stomped us. They only broke bunks and bowls. They didn't break the spine. The real war isn't on the yard under batons. It's here. He tapped his temple. And here. He pressed his chest. We haven't lost that war. Yakut watched the old thief and understood this lesson beat any raid or handler talk. Outside pressure was scary. Worse was what it revealed inside, like an X-ray. Shows who is steel and who is crap. That night in the ruined barracks, he finally got it. Survival war was just starting. The enemy wasn't only outside in that office under Dzerzhinsky's portrait. The most dangerous one sat in here, maybe smiling kindly right now, hiding a frozen hole where loyalty should be. Silence in the zone can be scarier than screams. It isn't empty. It's thick, like cooling tar. Footsteps of guards in the corridor. A TB cough in the far corner. A bunk creak. All background. What matters is what's missing. No usual camp buzz, no cussing at the window, no jokes, no domino squabbles. When the Brotherhood goes quiet, something bad happened. Or is about to. We sat in the shut-down carpentry shop that turned into a dump for moldy rags and busted tools. Smelled like wet wood, mildew, and nerves. Kinyaz sat on an upside-down crate, slow and ritual, rolling a cig from newsprint. Inked fingers calm, eyes cold as Baikal winter boring holes through the dark. Surgeon leaned on a dusty wall like a granite idol. Just standing made the air heavier. I, Gray, and 3 of ours, Knuckle, Snake, and Mute, squatted in a half circle. We waited. 2 days ago, Chizik didn't come back from the far logging strip. 22, cocky, loyal to the bone, went out with 2 workers. Only the workers came back, white as chalk. Said a Spetsnaz group jumped from the trees like they were waiting. Everyone face down in moss. Chizik cuffed separate. He twitched, tried to shout. 1 rifle butt to the temple. Done. The workers got dragged back and tossed into the hole to keep them quiet. As for Chizik, the handler casually told the barracks boss a day later, "Your chick's been written off. Heart failure during escape attempt. Heart failure from a rifle butt. Escape with 12 muzzles on you." The worst part wasn't that. Spetsnaz doesn't show up blind. They knew a road would run through that strip that day. A big shipment of grease and powder into the zone. Chizik was cover, and one of the receivers. They knew time and place, which means one thing. We have a rat. Someone sold the kid. For what? That was the question. Here's how it is, Kenyaz said, voice quiet and sharp as a shiv. They fed our boy to the red dogs. Clean job. Council ruled, until we find the turncoat, the whole zone is on alert. No moves, no roads. Kitty frozen. Eyes open for yourself and your neighbor. Questions? No one spoke, just a dull burning rage. I remembered Chizik fresh off juvie on a robbery. Dumb, brave. Here he glued to us, looked at Kenyaz like a god. Once at night by the window, he told me, Gray, when I'm out, I want to be with you for real. No small time, family, by the code. I smirked then. By the code. He didn't know that honest here can mean your own stick a knife in if the council says so. I said nothing, patted his shoulder. Hold steady, kid. It'll be smooth. Lie. Nothing's smooth here. Ever. 2 days of searching. The barracks breathed that sticky quiet. Every glance weighed, every word measured. Old grudges, side eyes, loose phrases, everything surfaced. The air crackled with suspicion. Surgeon and his bulls worked the insulted, the wool-wearers, anyone with beef against us. They shook the souls out of a couple of open admin snitches. Nothing. They swore it wasn't their scale, and it wasn't. Burning a thief road isn't hustling extra soup. That gets you buried alive. The rat was close, breathing our air, eating our food, smoking our smokes. That thought turned the gut. Worse than cop beatings, worse than hunger and cold. Betrayal from inside is acid. It melts the foundation. The entire thief law stands on one thing: trust. Brother dies for brother, but won't betray. Someone stomped that trust flat. Bloody. End of day 2, when tension peaked and it felt like barracks would burst into a civil war, a quiet, unremarkable guy called Mole shuffled up to Surgeon. He ran the kit room sorting parcels and letters. Dirty job under watch. But he'd held it 5 years, considered solid. He said nothing. Pressed a crumpled envelope into Surgeon's hand and melted away. Surgeon read. Passed it to Kenyaz. Kenyaz took longer, looked up. No shock, no rage, only a dead flat verdict. Bring Fiddler, he told Knuckle. Quiet, no eyes. Fiddler, Leoka, my blood iced. No way. He was here on fraud in major amounts. Ran some pyramid on the outside. Bookish, glasses, polite. Joined the thieves' circle maybe 2 years back. Not a hitter, but smart. Could map any scheme. Write any letter so clean a fly couldn't land. That's why we kept him close. He always talked about his daughter left outside. Showed her photo. Skinny little 10-year-old with bows. Said she was seriously sick, needed expensive meds, an operation in Germany. We even chipped in from the kitty for her, sent money out. His problem was ours, or so we thought. 10 minutes later, they brought Fiddler, pale, composed. He scanned us, stopped on Niaz. Pasha, he said. He alone was allowed that sometimes. A sign of favor. Niaz didn't answer, handed him the envelope. Yours? Fiddler took it. A letter from his sister. He skimmed. I watched his throat jump. Mine, he said, trying to keep the voice steady. Read the part about your daughter, Kenyaz said softly. From here. He tapped the middle. Fiddler swallowed, hands shaking. We got the medicine, Leosha, he read, halting. The doctor said it's a miracle, almost impossible to find. Thank your benefactor, a very decent man. He said you helped him a lot, and now he'll help us. The operation in Germany is set for next month. He'll cover all costs. Silence. You could hear blood hum. Benefactor. Decent man. The handler's handwriting without ink. He doesn't pay cash. He pays favors, rare drugs, foreign surgery in '96. Not for some random captain, for the machine, easy. Price? One tiny piece of info. Just time and route. One kid's life Fiddler barely knew. What benefactor, Leoka? Kenyaz's voice stayed level, steel creeping in. Captain Pitya Soshnikov, maybe? Loves good deeds with someone else's blood. Fiddler stared at the floor. One tear crawled down his cheek. Why, man? Knuckle burst, stepping in. Surgeon's arm barred him. Not yet. My daughter, Fiddler whispered. She was dying. Leukemia. Without those meds. Months. I begged everyone. Not enough. He came to me, said he knew, said he could help, just once. One time help him, and he saves my child. He lifted tear-flooded eyes at Kinyaz. Pasha, understand, she's my blood. What would you do? He showed me her photo, said, choose whose life matters more. I couldn't let her die. I barely knew that Chizik. Slowly, Kinyaz said, weighing each word. He knew you. He knew you were ours. He would have put a knife in any swine for you if I told him, because you're family, and you sold him, not for your daughter's life. You traded his life for hers. You paid for her health with his blood. Kinyaz stood, stepped in close. Fiddler flinched. In our law, Lyoka, there are no daughters and mothers, no excuses, only one split, ours or not, brother or not. You picked when you cut a deal with cops. You stopped being a man. You became a rat, and rats get one talk. Pasha, don't, Fiddler screamed, dropping to his knees. Please, I'll do anything. I'll work for his mother forever. Kill me. Just not the rat way. He knew what was coming. We all did. A clean knife for a man who messed up is one thing. Rats get something else. Humiliating. Terrifying. Too late, Lyoka. Kinyaz sighed and stepped aside. Surgeon. That was it. One word. Surgeon moved. Steel flashed. Not a shank. An awl, thick, faceted, canvas sewing tool. Fiddler shrieked in a high, broken note. Knuckle and Snake yanked him up and pinned him to the wall. He bucked, head whipping, snot and tears streaming. No, no. Forgive me, brothers. Please, he howled. What brothers, rat? Knuckle hissed in his ear. I stood and watched, had to watch. Part of the code. Everyone must see the price of betrayal, so the stink and that ugly squeal live under your skin forever. So you never even think about that path. Surgeon took Fiddler's left hand, palm up, and drove the awl through into the wood. The scream chopped into a gurgling animal sound. Blood crawled down. Then the right hand. Fiddler sagged on the nails. No more screams. Just low rattling, foam at his lips. Hold him, Surgeon said. He stepped back, wiped the awl on his pants, stepped in again, and spoke quiet so all could hear. This is for Chizik, scum, for a kid in damp earth because of you. This is for his mother's tears, for the brothers you burned, for our name you dragged through mud. With each line he stabbed, not killing blows, shoulders, thighs, calves, avoiding organs. He just sliced meat, turned a man into a bleeding slab. When he finished, Fiddler still breathed, hung on iron, wheezing. Kinyaz nodded to Mute. Mute stepped up with a filthy red rag, ripped from some activist's armband, and shoved it in Fiddler's mouth. Everyone got it. From now on, he's red, not worth talking to. Leave him, Eneaz said, heading for the door. Let him hang. In the morning the guards will find him. Let the handler admire his decent man. Move. We filed out. No one looked back. Only the muffled moaning and drip-drip of blood on the floor chased us. Back through the dark yard, silent. Everyone with their own thoughts. Mine were on Chizik, who wanted to live honest. On Fiddler, who wanted to save his kid. On that kid who might live and never learn the price paid. 2 wrecked lives, 1 stolen, 1 turned to hell. In the barracks, men sat and lay as before. Dozens of eyes fixed on us. No curiosity. A question. Kinyaz stopped mid-aisle. Rats found, he said, loud and clear. Case closed. Zone can breathe. He lay down. A minute later, talk returned. A cough, a clink of a mug. The crushing quiet left the room, but not me. It moved inside. I lay on my bunk, stared at the dark ceiling, and listened to it. Fiddler's squeal still in my ears. Kinyaz's dry whisper too. And for the first time, a scary clarity hit. Fiddler's snitch didn't just kill Chizik. It started killing something in us. That day in the carpentry, we didn't just lose Fiddler the man. We lost a chunk of faith that our family was real. What's left is fear and a code written in blood. And this was only the start. The worst bill wasn't paid yet. A wet November evening seeped through the barracks cracks with a graveyard chill. In the kit room, stuffed with musty coats and dusty boots, it stank of Mahorka, unwashed bodies, and stale despair. A rusty cage guarded a weak bulb that sliced the gloom over 3 hunched shapes. air heavy as damp dirt on a coffin lid. The silence weighed more than 12 years of hard time hanging over each of them. After Chalov was found hanging in the dryer with obvious signs of a fight, the crew didn't break into pieces. It turned to dust. Every look went barbed. Every word sat on invisible scales. The snitch job that dumped them all into this frozen end of the world now lived among them. It breathed their air, ate their slop, and stared back at them with their own eyes. Suspicion, 002, 004 by 15 turned into acid, eating away the last scraps of their former unity. Today they sat here together, the antique dealer, the gray one, and the beast. Not for a council, not for a reckoning. They just sat, the three of them, in the small, airless world of the kit room, as if trying to hide from the icy draft of distrust sweeping the camp. The gray one, the oldest and most respected, broke first. Slowly, like an old man, he lit a roll-up, and his wrinkled face, cut up by scars and time, disappeared in swirls of bluish smoke. I did my first stretch at 19. His voice was quiet and creaky, like the camp gates that never saw grease. The year was 1962. Khrushchev was planting corn across the country, and we in Voronezh were hungry. Not down to the bone, but that empty feeling was in the gut and the soul. My mother worked 2 shifts at the factory. I don't remember my father. He disappeared in the war. One winter night, bitter cold, my buddy Vasya the Crooked and I broke into a food warehouse. Not for profit, to eat. Canned stew, sugar, flour. We figured we'd quietly grab a couple sacks and head home. But there was a guard there, an old frontline vet with one leg. I think he wouldn't have turned us in. He'd scold us and chase us off. But Vasya got scared. He had a crowbar in his hand. He hit the old man in the back of the head. Once. Not even that hard. The gray one fell silent and drew deep. The tip of the cigarette lit up, for a moment showing his faded eyes, cloudy with unending pain. The old man didn't die. He came around in the hospital, but they picked us up 2 days later. Vasya cracked in the very first interrogation. Pinned it all on me, said I forced him, said I did the hitting, first time in my life. He, a juvenile, got a lecture and was sent home. I got 5 years. 5 years for a sack of flour and a split skull. I rolled into the zone a green kid who didn't even know the thieves' jargon. They tossed me straight into a press cell and tried to break me. Wanted me to sign up as a trustee. They beat me so bad, I pissed blood. Every day for a week, then another. I was ready to sign anything just to make it stop. And at night, when the screws left, an old thief would come over, Grandpa Matvey. He was on the next bunk, sick with TB. He'd whisper, "Hold on, boy, don't bend. You bend once and they'll wipe their feet on you for life. You're a man, not a rag. Remember, a thief must suffer. That's our share, but we don't bow." And I held on, clenched my teeth and held on. A month later, they left me alone and dumped me half dead into the common barrack. He spat on the filthy concrete. There, in the barrack, Grandpa Matvey and the other roamers took me under their wing, taught me to live by the code. Don't snitch, don't pilfer from your own, don't hand over what's yours, don't take what's not yours without asking. Help the brotherhood, answer for an insult. Simple as the world. We lived our own state within a state. We had our own court, our own law, our own kitty. The cops were beyond the fence. Inside we had our life. Hard, yes, cruel, yes, but honest. Or so it seemed to me. I did my stretch to the bell, got out, thought I'd start over. Where would I go? With a wolf ticket, no job, no residence permit. I went back to my own, to those who kept me warm in the zone, and it started again. Apartments, cash offices, shops. I didn't rob people. We took from the state, from those who themselves stole by the trainload. I was a proper thief. They crowned me in 75 in Vladimir Central. Vasya Brilliant himself spoke for me. Said, "The gray one is a thief by God and by suffering. His path is our path." I believed in it, in our unbreakable brotherhood, that we were the salt of the earth and the rest just dust underfoot. He crushed the cigarette under a worn heel. I lived my whole life by those laws. 30 years, 4 stretches. Lost my family. My wife left, couldn't take it. My son grew up, changed his name, wants nothing to do with me. I laid everything on the altar of this life, our life. And for what? To sit here in this stinking hole and guess which one of you two, my last brothers, sold me and everyone else like a hog at market, so that Chally, who pulled 2 stretches with me, ended up in a noose because someone whispered into a handler's ear that he was skimming the kitty. I know he wasn't, but I can't prove it, because a word turned out to weigh more than a thief's word. That's the price of my life. I traded everything, family, freedom, simple human happiness, for a rotten idea that crumbled at one denunciation. And the worst part, his voice dropped to a whisper. I look at you and don't believe either of you. Not you, antique dealer, not you, beast. And I know you don't believe me either. That's the outcome. We're the last of the Mohicans who will eat each other because one of us turned out carrion. The kit room filled with heavy ringing silence. Every word of the Gray One had been a backswing, stripping the hide off old illusions. The beast, who had sat unmoving like a slab of granite, cracked his knuckles. His huge body, barely fitting the low stool, tensed. Philosophy, he growled, his low voice seeming to make the walls vibrate. Codes, laws. I never believed any of it. He lifted his head. His eyes were small, deep-set, cold as ice in a winter ice hole. I'm from an orphanage. My mother lived a hard life. I never knew my father. Maybe he was a random man. When I was 3, she dumped me in a home. There were about 150 kids like me. The rules were simple. The older boys took your food, your clothes, everything. The world was simple. Either you hit or you get hit. I figured out quick it's better to hit. At 12, I killed for the first time. An older kid who'd bullied me for half a year. Dragged him into the toilet and beat him with a piece of pipe. Kept hitting till the rasping stopped. They didn't jail me. Too young. Sent me to a special school. Same orphanage, only with bars. There, I learned the second rule. Strike first, and to kill, so there's no payback. The beast smirked, but there was no humor in it. At 16, I ran, glued myself to a crew at the station. We jacked businessmen. Took everything. Watches, cash, jackets. One day we grabbed a square. He had a briefcase. We thought money, papers. He clung to that case like it was his life. Started yelling, threatening cops. So I stuck him under the ribs with a shank. He looked at me all surprised, choked, and slumped. And the case had nothing, just contracts. I got my first 10 at hard regime for that. In the zone, I didn't philosophize about codes. I saw who had power and went to him. Power sat with the thieves. I became their torpedo. They said "fass," and I tore, broke bones, knocked out teeth. I liked it. Liked seeing fear in eyes. That's the only thing I could do, put fear in people. For that they respected me, feared me, which is the same to me. He looked from the Gray One to the antique dealer. You old guys keep yapping about thief honor, brotherhood. I've watched your honest thieves sell their own mothers for an extra ration. Seen roamers break under the press and become punks. Your honor lasts until the first good beating, or a nice offer from the handler. There's no honor, only strength. Whoever's stronger is right. Whoever can take it is master. They crown me not for an idea. They crown me because I had the zone in my fist. Because at my word, the unwanted got thrown to the roosters and authorities pissed themselves. I'm not a thief. I'm a predator. And I don't give a damn who wrote what. When I find who did it, I won't hold councils or tribunals. I'll rip his throat out with my bare hands and then eat it. Because in my world, that's justice. The beast fell silent, breathing hard. His confession was short and chopped, like axe blows. It left no room for pity or sympathy. It was cruelty distilled by cruelty. Now they looked at the antique dealer. He was different. Not an old wolf like the Gray One, not a merciless beast. There was always a certain refinement in his movements and speech alien to this world. He was called the antique dealer for his passion for old things carried through his criminal career, specializing in thefts from museums and private collections. The antique dealer stayed quiet a long time, rolling invisible beads between his fingers. I could have lived another way, he said at last, quietly. Completely different. My father was a university history professor, my mother a librarian. I grew up among books, not the ones you read, Gray One, about Phantomas, but among Herodotus, Tacitus, Clyuchevsky. I knew Latin better than slang. I was supposed to follow my father, enter the history department. I had a girlfriend, Lena, smart, beautiful. We were going to marry. Life was mapped for 20 years. Boring, proper, happy. He crooked a smile filled with the bitterness of a whole world. It was 1988, perestroika. The air was intoxicating, smelled of freedom and big money. And into that air walked my uncle, my mother's brother, Uncle Grisha. He was the opposite of our family. A repeat offender, spent his life in camps. He showed up at our door sudden, thin, elegant, foreign suit, smell of expensive cologne and cash. He didn't talk. He sang, told about another world. No bosses, no alarm clocks. You're your own master. Real men. Friendship sealed by blood. No place for the hypocrisy and lies I saw every day in academia, with its backstage wars for chairs and titles. The antique dealer raised his eyes. They were dark and tired. He seduced me not with money, with an idea. The idea of absolute freedom and belonging to a caste of the chosen. He said, "Look at your father, a slave to the system, to a paycheck, to conventions. We're wolves. Yes, we get hunted, but we live short and bright. We breathe full." And I, a 20-year-old idiot, believed. It seemed impossibly romantic. I started helping him, small things at first, scouting and pointing out apartments of wealthy collectors I knew of from my father. I was a guide to the world he wanted to rob. My knowledge of history and art was priceless. I could tell a real Rembrandt from a fake. Knew where to look for stashes and antique furniture. I was the brain. He was the muscle. Our first big job was a private museum. We took 15th century icons. Millions. I remember the feeling holding them. Not the joy of money, the feeling of power. I, a simple student, held history in my hands and could sell it, destroy it, hide it. I was above this world, above my father with his dusty books. Then there was Lena. She suspected something, started asking questions. I lied, clumsily, stupidly. One day she came when Uncle Grisha and I were splitting money, saw everything, her eyes, not fear in them. Disgust and disappointment. She turned around and left forever. That night I got blind drunk for the first time. In the morning, Uncle Grisha said, "Women come and go, the brotherhood stays." I believed him again, and a year later he was killed in a gang shootout. I was alone, and the way back was cut off. I was already inside the system. People knew me. I got my first sentence for those icons. One of the buyers sold me out. In the zone, I wasn't a torpedo or a martyr. I stayed what I'd always been, the brain. Helped the thieves run the kitty, settled complex disputes, wrote notes good enough to publish. I built a reputation as smart, judicious, fair. They crowned me because I was useful. I didn't break people like the beast. I calculated them. I never liked violence. It seemed crude and inefficient. Why break a jaw when you can break a will with one word? He looked around the kit room. I built my life on lies. First I lied to my parents and to Lena. Then I lied to myself, convincing myself the thieves' world was one of honor and justice, that we were society's sanitary crew, stealing from those who had stolen. A convenient philosophy so you don't go mad. I traded love, family, a quiet old age, and respect in a son's eyes, who I will never have. For what? For sitting now in this hole listening to one of you say honor is a fiction, and the other that he trusts no one. I look at you, and I understand my Uncle Grisha lied too. There's no brotherhood. There's only a pack of dogs locked in one pen, and when they get hungry, the wolves start eating each other. This denunciation just made us hungry. It showed us what we always were, lonely, embittered predators pretending to be brothers. The antique dealer fell silent. His confession, quiet and bitter, turned out more terrifying than the beast's roar and the gray one's grief. It was a sentence not only on him, but on their whole world. They sat in silence a long time. 3 men, 3 fates, 3 different roads brought to the same dead end. They stripped their souls and said what they'd never told anyone. It seemed that shared pain, that awful truth, should have brought them closer. Nothing changed. When they stepped out of the kit room into the cold camp night, the antique dealer caught the gray one's glance, quick, appraising. In it, there was neither sympathy nor understanding, only the same cold calculation. While telling his story, the gray one had never once mentioned what he was in for this time. He spoke of the past and was silent about the present. That minor omission, that little unsaid, lodged in the antique dealer's brain like a poison needle. He looked at the beast retreating back, then at the gray one's hunched figure. Confessions were over. The hunt continued, and with soul-freezing clarity, he understood that brotherhood hadn't died today. It was never born. It was just a pretty myth they told themselves, so they wouldn't see the fangs in each other's mouths. The walls of solitary had absorbed decades of fear. They oozed it like old pines ooze sap. Arson felt that fear on his skin. He sat on the bunk welded to the floor, hugged his knees, and stared at the gray rectangle of concrete. One day is 440 hours. No, 24 hours. No, 140 minutes. No, 86,400 seconds. He counted, not to keep time, but to stuff the emptiness in his head that howled like a steppe blizzard. The emptiness left where the Brotherhood had been, where the code had been, where his whole life had been. How one denunciation destroyed an entire crew. That phrase, tossed by some operative during the shakedown, battered his skull like a trapped bird. One denunciation, one lousy scrap of paper written by a trembling hand. And that was it. A whole world built on trust, on a common pot, on a word dearer than life turned to dust. He closed his eyes and saw that council again. Not here, in this damned box, but still on the outside in 96. The basement of an old merchant's house, the smell of good cognac, cigar smoke, and confidence. The antique dealer, gray as the moon, with eyes that had seen Stalin's camps, held the floor. He spoke of purity of ranks, that a thief must live a thief and die a thief. Around sat the crew, Vaca, the cross-eyed, Pate, Arsène himself, still young but already on his way to the crown, and Gray, quiet, unobtrusive Gray, always in the shadows, nodding along, looking up faithful as a dog. Who could have thought that in that dog's soul the abscess of betrayal was already ripening? The rasp of a key in the lock yanked him from memory. The door, iron-clad with rusting sheet, groaned open. On the threshold stood not a guard, but the handler himself, the zone's boss, Major Sokolov, a man of about 45, with the face of a tired bookkeeper and cold, colorless eyes. Two masked special ops bruisers loomed behind him. "Well, Arseny Pavlovich, had your fill? Don't you want some air?" Sokolov's voice was quiet, almost ingratiating. It lacked the usual cop swagger, which made it even more vile. Arsène rose silently. His legs were numb, his back ached. He didn't answer. Staring at the handler was beneath him, but to look away was to show weakness. He looked slightly past him at the peeling paint on the corridor wall. "Let's walk," the major went on. "We've got a serious talk." They walked the empty regime corridor. Steps echoed hollow. Usually there was clatter, shouting, metal clanging. Now, dead silence. The camp was locked down for quarantine, officially dysentery. Arsène knew the real reason. The reason was him and what was left of the antique dealer's crew. Sokolov brought him to his office, spacious, an oak desk, Dzerzhinsky's portrait, and an aquarium with a lone piranha lazily drifting. The contrast with the stink and damp of solitary was deafening. "Sit." The major nodded to the chair. The special ops stayed by the door. Arsène sat, back straight. Sokolov opened a drawer, pulled a pack of Marlboro and a lighter. Flick. He smoked and let a stream of smoke out. "Help yourself." He slid the pack. "Thanks. I don't smoke with cops," Arsène said evenly. His voice was hoarse from long silence. The major smirked. "Proud. Good. I respect men of principle, even your kind. You know, Arsène, I've studied your psychology for 15 years, almost finished my dissertation. The destructive influence of criminal subculture on the penitentiary system has a ring to it." Arsène kept quiet. It was a play, a cheap stage trick to break him. "You think your power?" Sokolov flicked ash into a heavy crystal ashtray. "You think your codes are iron law, brotherhood, honor, a thief's word. Pretty fairy tales for juvies. In reality," he paused, drew in smoke. "In reality, your vaunted brotherhood rests on fear. And if you find one crack, one rotten plank in your fence, the whole structure collapses like a house of cards." He dug into the drawer again and tossed several photos on the desk. Grainy faces. Vaca, the cross-eyed, Pate. All dead. Vaca stabbed in the showers. The cross-eyed found hanged in the shop area. Pate beaten to death in the smoker's corner. "This isn't our work, Arsène. You did this yourselves," Sokolov said quietly. "After we took the antique dealer, with your help. Oh, sorry, a slip of the tongue. With the help of one civic-minded citizen. Citizen Gray. Arsène clenched his fists till his nails bit his palms. Blood hammered in his temples. Gray, the major savored the word. A common errand boy, scared of everything, of you, of us. We explained to him that we're the ones to fear. We showed him photos of his first-grader daughter with bows by her school. Showed him what happens to daughters of those who won't cooperate. And he sang, like a nightingale. Told us everything. Your counsels, the kitty, your plans to carve up the city. How the antique dealer planned to bring a new governor to heel. Sokolov leaned forward, eyes drilling into Arsène. And the funniest thing, he wrote you up too, just in case. Said you knew, but wanted to dump the antique dealer and take his place. We got the perfect layout. We removed the top and fed the rest disinformation, that you sold them out, that you were lining up to be the handler's watcher. And they believed it, because in your world, where there's no trust, believing in betrayal is the easiest thing. And here's the result. He nodded at the photos again. Arsène breathed hard through his teeth. He felt a boil of helpless rage. They hadn't just set him up. They'd painted him as the worst kind of punk. There is no worse sin in the thieves' world. What do you want, cop? He forced out. I want you to live, Arsène, Sokolov smiled. And live well. You're a smart man. You had authority. It's dented, but a core remains. People remember who you were. I'll take you out of the hole now, back to the barrack. But the zone isn't the same. It's red now. Almost. The old thieves are almost gone. Just psychos, scared workers, and activists. No order, just lawlessness. But you can impose order for us. You'll be watcher, not a thieves one, of course. Ours. You'll ensure the zone runs, no riots, no gray market dope. And we, in return, give you life. A comfortable one. Parole in a couple of years, new identity. You'll go off to Voronezh and forget this like a bad dream. He fell silent, giving Arsène time to think. It was the vilest offer he'd ever heard. They weren't just offering to make him a punk. They were offering to make him the head punk, the shepherd of the flock he had once called family. Arsène slowly lifted his eyes. No fear, no hatred, just icy contempt. You know, Major, he said quietly and clearly, there are things worse than death in my world. For example, living the way you propose. He added, so go to hell, comrade boss. You, your dissertation, and your pet piranha. Not a muscle moved on Sokolov's face. He just nodded, as if hearing exactly the answer he expected. Pity, he said flatly. I gave you a chance, I won't again. He pressed the intercom. Take him. The door opened. The special ops men grabbed him roughly. As they hauled him out, he heard the handler's calm voice behind him. To the common barrack. Let the people decide what to do with him. The return to the barrack felt like falling into ice water. A month ago, he walked in as a master. Any worker considered it an honor to greet him. Any errand boy was eager to serve. Thieves stood up. Now, as he crossed the threshold, the buzz died. 100 eyes fixed on him. In them no respect. Fear, hatred, curiosity, schadenfreude. He walked to his second-tier bunk. Empty. No one dared take it, not out of respect, but superstitious fear, as if it belonged to a leper. He climbed up and lay down, turning to the wall. He heard the whisper behind him. Saw him go to the handler's office, sold everyone out. Because of him, Pate got killed. What now? No one came over. No one asked him straight. His old comrades, the ones still alive, pretended he didn't exist. They were afraid. Afraid of the cops. Afraid of the psychos. Afraid of each other. And most of all, they were afraid of him. A living reminder of how easily you can fall from the top to the pit. Time dragged like thick molasses. Day turned to evening. The dim bulbs flicked on. The barrack hummed like a disturbed hive. Around his bunk was an exclusion zone. He didn't eat, didn't drink, just lay and stared at the gray, dirty wall. He thought of the antique dealer. The old thief was surely in the White Swan's press cell right now. They were breaking him. Arsène knew he wouldn't break. That kind doesn't. They just die. The antique dealer had chosen his death half a century ago. Arsène was only 34, and his death was already coming for him. He felt it. It came at night. One of the lower bunks creaked, then another. He didn't turn, but he heard every rustle. They were coming to him, not sneaking, not loud either. 3 or 4. He knew who. young psychos in on wild charges. For them, there were no codes, no authorities, only strength and swagger. In the new red zone, they felt like masters, and he was for them a symbol of the old world to be finished off. He sat up slowly, let his legs hang. In the half-dark, he saw their outlines. Up front stood Boar, dumb and huge, in for a gang rape. Behind him, two more whose names Arsen didn't even know. "Well, authority, come down. We gotta talk." Boar grinned. Something flashed in his hand. A shank. Spoon metal ground on concrete. Arsen silently dropped to the floor. He stood straight, shoulders squared. He was alone. The whole barrack watched in quiet. 100 men watching the killing of the man they called their leader yesterday. No one moved, no one spoke a word in his defense. Brotherhood was dead. Only spectators remained. "Heard you're cozy with the handler?" Boar kept on, stepping closer. "Turning decent folks into the cops. Ain't human. Gotta answer for that." The peak of cynicism. A psycho talking about human. Arsen crooked a smile. "You don't even know the words," he rasped. "You didn't come to ask. You came to do your master's bidding." Fear flickered in Boar's eyes. Arsen hit the nerve. Of course it was the handler's work. Sokolov didn't want dirty hands. He just loosed rabid dogs with the command, "Fass! Shut your mouth, punk!" Boar squealed and lunged, stabbing. Arsen had waited. Years of street fights and prison moves. His body worked before his brain. He slipped the line and at the same time smashed a short, brutal punch into Boar's Adam's apple. Crunch. Boar choked, dropped the shank, grabbed his throat. His eyes bulged. The two behind froze for a second, not expecting it. A second was enough. Arsen surged, bowled one over, fell on him with all his weight. But the other got his wits. Arsen felt a dull, hard blow in the side. Then another, and another. He didn't at first realize what it was. Then something warm and sticky ran down his legs. He turned. The second psycho, thin and long like a worm, eyes mad with dope, was working him with a second shank again and again. No yelling, just a businesslike snuffling. Strength began to leave Arsen. He tried to stand. His legs buckled. He fell to his knees. The world narrowed. Sounds went muffled, like underwater. He saw the scared faces of workers, the gloating smirks of activists. He saw his life flash. Himself as a courtyard kid. His first juvie stretch. The antique dealer's coronation, where he stood among the chosen. Gray's face when he swore loyalty. The pain left. Only cold emptiness remained. He rolled onto his side on the dirty, spit-stained floor. The last thing he saw, the crooked cat? No, the dim bulb under the ceiling, ringed with a halo like a saint's nimbus on a corpse. And the last thought was laughably simple. So that's how. 2 guards dragged 2 bodies wrapped in filthy mattresses into Sokolov's office and dropped them on the floor. The major grimaced. "That's Boar," the sergeant reported. "Arsen crushed his larynx, suffocated, and that's Arsen himself. Shanked." "Got it." Sokolov nodded without looking up from his papers. "Write it as a domestic quarrel on grounds of personal animosity. The one who did the stabbing, 15 days in the hole for order's sake. And get this out of here. Stinks." The guards hauled the bodies away. Sokolov stood, went to the window. Below, in the gray morning light, the zone was starting a new day. The men formed up for roll call. Life went on. Nothing changed. One authority died. Others would come, or not. He didn't care. The system chewed another batch of human material. The object decriminalization plan fulfilled. Time to write reports and wait for another star on the shoulder boards. He looked at the aquarium. The piranha stared back, indifferent through the glass. "That's it, Arseny Pavlovich," the major said softly into the empty room. "No romance, no thieves' idea, just biology. The strong eat the weak, and the strongest is the one behind the glass sprinkling feed." A cold, indifferent sun of the 90s rose over the zone. In the camp office archive, a short entry went into the personal file of inmate Arseny Pavlovich Petrov, born 1962, departed due to death. The story of one crew ended, like thousands before and after it, in dirt, blood, and oblivion, without honor, without glory, without meaning, dust to dust.